According to its state media, North Korea has tested a new nuclear-capable underwater attack drone that can generate a radioactive tsunami. A video of the drill was shown on state television. The new North Korean drone cruised underwater at a depth of more than 150 meters for over 59 hours and detonated in waters off its east coast. Dubbed Hail or Tsunami, the drone system is intended to make sneak attacks in enemy waters and destroy naval striker groups. Protests against France's controversial retirement reforms are reportedly spiraling out of control. Protesters set ablaze the city hall of the southwestern French city of Bordeaux yesterday. Eyewitness footage showed flames ravaging the main door of the building at around 8 p.m. local time. The latest wave of protests represents the most serious challenge to French President Emmanuel Macron's authority since the Yellow Vest revolt 4 years ago. US lawmakers pressed TikTok CEO Chu over data security and harmful content for over 6 hours yesterday. Chu spent most of the hearing attempting to push back against assertions that TikTok or its Chinese parent company ByteDance are tools of the Chinese government. However, he failed to answer uncomfortable questions about human rights abuses committed by China against the Uyghur population in Xinjiang. The US military carried out multiple airstrikes in Syria last night. The strikes were carried out against Iran-aligned groups, who the US blames for a deadly drone attack that killed an American contractor. The Pentagon disclosed both the attack on the US personnel and the retaliation at the same time earlier this morning. US troops have reportedly come under attack by Iranian-backed groups about 78 times since the beginning of 2021. US President Joe Biden has arrived in Canada for a 2-day visit. Biden is expected to discuss migration, security, and energy with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The two leaders and their wives met privately at Trudeau's residence shortly after Biden and First Lady Jill Biden arrived. Biden arrived on his long-delayed visit to express unity on Ukraine and will address Canada's parliament with Trudeau later today. Shares of Jack Dorsey's payment firm Block have plummeted amid accusations that the company fudged its user numbers and customer acquisition costs. A report from short seller Hindenburg Research says that 40 to 75% of accounts they reviewed were either fake, involved in fraud, or additional accounts tied to a single individual. Dorsey's fortune plunged by $526 million on Thursday, his worst single-day decline since May. Slovakia has handed over the first 4 MiG-29 jets it has pledged to donate to Ukraine. The rest of the fighter jets are set to be delivered in the coming weeks. NATO member Slovakia joined Poland in announcing the delivery of jets to Ukraine last week. Slovakia has pledged to donate 13 Soviet-made fighter jets in all. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged Europe to increase and speed up its supply of weapons in his country. Zelensky is also urging the West to impose additional sanctions on Russia, saying otherwise the war could drag on for years. He added it was up to the 27-nation bloc to take action to contain Russia more than a year into its invasion of Ukraine. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has told lawmakers that China was very carefully watching how Washington and the world respond to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Blinken was speaking on the heels of a visit to Moscow by Chinese President Xi Jinping. He warned that if Russia was allowed to continue attacking its neighbor with impunity, it would open a Pandora's box for would-be aggressors and lead to a world of conflict. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said in a televised address that he is determined to proceed with judicial reforms. Netanyahu's latest announcement comes amid unprecedented nationwide protests against the government's overhaul plan. The protests have escalated since the start of the year, when Netanyahu's government introduced new legislation that would limit the authority of the Supreme Court. Donald Trump's attorney is expected to give additional testimony before a grand jury investigating the former US president's handling of classified documents later today. A US district judge ordered Trump's attorney to testify after he invoked attorney-client privilege during a prior grand jury appearance in January. The attorney had refused to answer investigators' questions about his communications with Trump back then. Cyclone Freddy has caused widespread destruction in Malawi. The cyclone has dumped 6 months' worth of rainfall in 6 days in the southern part of the country. The death toll in Malawi is now at 449, while 350 people remain missing. Cyclone Freddy destroyed over 117,000 hectares of Malawi's farmland. The price of the staple crop, corn, has gone up by 400%. A forest fire raged in eastern Spain on Thursday. Emergency evacuation in 3 villages forced thousands to leave. Emergency services set up refuge and field hospitals. The fire has burned around 100,000 hectares of land. 10 airplanes have been putting out the flames. Military firefighters have been deployed to control the wildfire. A new climate paper calls for charging big US oil firms with homicide. Authors argue that fossil fuel companies have been lying to the people. They also say that the companies' actions endanger much or all of the public. The paper will be published in the Harvard University Academic Journal in 2024. The paper comes amid increased legal action against fossil fuel companies. A new EU regulation will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the shipping sector. The agreement will promote the use of cleaner fuels and energy. The target is to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. Waterborne transport generates 3 to 4% of the total carbon dioxide emissions in the EU. NASA has reported that global sea levels rose by 2.8 millimeters between 2021 and 2022. The amount of water can fill up to 1 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. The annual rate of rise has increased from about 2 millimeters in the 1990s to about 4.3 millimeters today. Analysts estimate that sea level rise will hit 6.6 millimeters by 2050. African and Latin American countries have come together for the Freshwater Challenge. Colombia, Mexico, and Gabon are among the countries set to restore freshwater ecosystems. The aim is to restore 300,000 kilometers of rivers, lakes, and wetlands by 2030. The plan was announced at the ongoing UN Water Conference in New York. This is the world's largest river and wetland restoration project. A controversial gold mine in Thailand has restarted operations after 6 years. The mine is spread over 3 provinces of northern Thailand. Villagers complained that its operations led to the poisoning of crops and livestock. Blood test reports of villagers reported alarming levels of heavy metals. The government forced its closure in 2016 over health and environmental concerns. US President Joe Biden has announced new actions to conserve and restore lands and waters. Biden has directed designating a marine sanctuary around the Pacific remote islands. Marine conservation plans in Hawaii will help conserve 30% of America's waters. Biden also plans to open 2 national monuments in Nevada and Texas. National monuments will protect around 208,000 hectares of public land. French glaciologist Claude Grosjean has died at the age of 91. Grosjean is credited with leading 22 expeditions to Greenland and Antarctica. He lived and researched in Antarctica on and off for 6 years. Grosjean started suspecting human intervention in global warming in the 1970s. He became the first French person to receive the 2008 Blue Planet Prize. He died in the French region of Burgundy. US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has reassured jittery investors that American bank deposits are safe. Yellen has also promised that policymakers have more firepower to battle any crisis, even as bank stocks resumed their slide on Thursday. Investors have dumped banking stocks globally over the past 2 weeks. This resulted in US bank stocks sliding again on Thursday. Citizens Financial Group Incorporated is working on a bid to acquire the private banking business of the failed Silicon Valley Bank. Citizens is one of the largest US regional banks. It's preparing to submit an offer in the auction of the business called SVB Private. The auction is being handled by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. The Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey has said that the central bank believes inflation will fall quickly. Bailey added he did not see a repeat of the 2008 financial crisis following banking collapses in the US and Switzerland. The bank has raised interest rates by a further 0.25 percentage point. It expects the surge in British inflation to cool faster than before. The US Securities and Exchange Commission has issued an investor warning on the crypto industry. The regulator has warned that firms offering crypto securities may not be complying with laws. Unregistered offerings from these firms may also fail to provide important data such as audited financial statements or more. The SEC has been imposing major crackdowns in an effort to streamline the largely unregulated industry. Tech giant Oracle has laid off workers in Cerner, its digital health records unit. Media reports suggest that workers were informed of their redundancy last week. While reports do not confirm the full scale of the job cuts yet, the marketing and creative services divisions are the worst hit. This comes as the company is working to integrate last year's $28.3 billion acquisition with Cerner. Accenture has announced plans to eliminate about 2.5% of its staff, or 19,000 jobs. It lowered its annual revenue and profit projections as mass layoffs continue worldwide. This is the latest indication that corporate spending on its services is being slashed as a result of the worsening global economic situation. According to media reports, hundreds of Walmart workers have been given a 90-day notice. They're being asked to find jobs at other company locations within this period. About 200 workers at a New Jersey facility and 100 others from units in Texas, California, Florida, and Pennsylvania are being let go of. Fears of an incoming recession have fueled a rampant trend of layoffs across sectors. In the retail sector alone, more than 17,000 redundancies have already been announced. The governor of the US state of Utah has signed 2 laws intended to restrict social media use by minors. With the move, Utah becomes the first US state to require parental permission for anyone under 18 to use platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. The 2 bills were passed by Utah's Republican-controlled legislature earlier this month. They're also meant to make it easier to sue social media companies for damages. New Zealand has become the latest nation to limit the use of video sharing app TikTok on government-related devices. The island nation will ban TikTok on devices with access to the country's parliamentary network amid cybersecurity concerns. Concerns have mounted globally about the potential for the Chinese government to access users' location and contact data. Twitter has announced that it will begin removing legacy blue checkmarks from user accounts on April 1st. The tech behemoth is winding down its legacy verified program in a subscription push. The move comes as the Elon Musk-owned social media firm expands its subscription program Twitter Blue across the world. The much-awaited mega cricket carnival, the Indian Premier League or IPL, will kick-start from March 31st. The inaugural match is between defending champions Gujarat Titans and 4-time champions Chennai Super Kings. It will be held in Ahmedabad. The final match will be played on May 28th. World Athletics has voted to ban transgender women from competing in elite female competitions. The sports body has also tightened testosterone restrictions for other athletes. The new rules will also impact athletes with what is known as differences in sex development, or DS. The most famous might be South Africa's 2-time Olympic 800-meter winner, Caster Semenya, who has XY chromosomes and blood testosterone levels in the male range. Football sensation Cristiano Ronaldo has set a new record for the most international caps. Ronaldo achieved this feat in Portugal's 4-0 win over Liechtenstein in their opening Euro 2024 qualifier last evening. Ronaldo had been benched by former coach Fernando Santos for Portugal's final two games at last year's World Cup in Qatar. Portugal lost in the quarterfinals to Morocco. Harry Kane has become England's record international goal scorer after scoring his 56th goal for the Three Lions. He achieved the feat as his side began their Euro 2024 qualifying campaign by beating reigning champions Italy 2-1 in Group C last evening. England skipper struck a penalty past Italian goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma shortly before half-time to make it 2-0. Declan Rice had opened the scoring after 13 minutes. Kylian Mbappe has addressed his first press conference as the French football team's new captain. Mbappe said that his main role as France captain will be to link the old and new generation of players in the squad. Mbappe was named France captain to replace Hugo Lloris on Tuesday. The decision was taken after the 36-year-old goalkeeper announced his international retirement in January. Lionel Messi led Argentina beat Panama 2-0 in a friendly last evening with goals from Thiago Almada and Lionel Messi. Came amid a festive atmosphere in their first game in front of their home fans after winning the World Cup in December. Argentina manager Lionel Scaloni picked the same starting lineup from the World Cup win over France as they looked dominant from the start. The deadline for interested parties to submit new bids to buy Manchester United has been extended. It had originally been set for 2100 GMT on March 23rd. The only two bidders to declare their interest, Ionis owner Jim Ratcliffe and Qatari banker Sheikh Jassim, requested for the deadline to be extended as they're yet to submit revised bids to buy the club. It's not clear when the new deadline is for Ratcliffe and Jassim to submit their bids. The Russian Athletic Federation was banned in late 2015 after the discovery of massive state-sponsored doping and related cover-ups. In recent years, dozens of Russian athletes had been allowed to compete as neutrals if they could show a doping-free background. However, now they too remain unable to compete. This after the Athletic Council voted to maintain the blanket ban on Russian and Belarusian athletes after the invasion of Ukraine. Three-time Olympian Wu Peng is staging a comeback in the pool at Chinese Spring Nationals this week. 36-year-old Peng had announced his retirement from competitive swimming a decade ago. He represented China at the 2004, 2008 and 2012 Olympics, the first when he was just 17 years of age. Peng famously defeated Michael Phelps in the 200 fly twice in 2011, ending a 9-year winning streak for the American swimmer. The burned-out wreckage from Romain Grosjean's fireball crash will go on display from today at a Formula One exhibition in the Spanish capital Madrid. The remains of his Haas car's chassis, which split in half upon impact, had been kept under wraps since the accident at the Bahrain Grand Prix in November 2020. Frenchman Grosjean was in the car for nearly half a minute after it caught fire, but escaped with just burns to his hands. Ben Affleck's Air has received a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. A 100% rating means that all the critics present at the screening loved the film. The film is based on sports brand Nike's famous Air Jordans. Other films to claim this feat are Toy Story and Charlie Chaplin's The Kid. An unidentified man broke into singer Rihanna's Los Angeles house on Thursday morning. The man had traveled from South Carolina to propose to Rihanna. Rihanna's security detail alerted the police, who arrested the man for trespassing. It's unclear whether Rihanna was present in her house at the time. Alec Baldwin's movie Supercell has been released for video on demand. The movie marks a collaboration between Baldwin and his Rust filmmakers. The movie was released without any fanfare. Rust has been in the news for a fatal accident on the set. Baldwin accidentally fired a prop gun, killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins. Amazon is ready to release its first original African movie. Gangs of Lagos is a Nigerian original production. The action crime thriller is directed by Jade Oziberu. The film will release on Prime Video on April 7th. The move signals Nigeria becoming a key battleground in Hollywood's streaming wars. Paramount Pictures has acquired remake rights of Vertigo. Paramount was the distributor of the original film. The 1958 film, by director Alfred Hitchcock, starred James Stewart. Actor Robert Downey Jr. has been roped in to play the lead in the remake. The script will be written by Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight. Apple Studios is planning to spend $1 billion on theatrical film releases. Apple will produce more original films that will have theatrical releases. The movies will run for a minimum of a month in theaters. The studio is also in talks with other studios about partnerships. Netflix has released the first full-length trailer of Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story. The prequel to Bridgerton shows how the young queen met and married King George. English actor India Amartya plays the younger version of Charlotte. The 8-episode series will premiere on May 4th. BBC will not film the latest series of Top Gear. The announcement follows co-presenter cricketer Andrew Flintoff's car crash. The 45-year-old was injured at the show's track at Dunsfold Aerodrome last December. BBC has concluded an investigation into the accident. Flintoff joined the show in 2019 and is thinking of quitting as co-presenter. Fan-made Pokemon Fire Ash video game will bid farewell to protagonist Ash Ketchum. Ash and Pikachu's adventures in the television animated series are coming to an end this year. It will end the 25-year-old saga of the two characters in the animated series. This leaves the game's developers with no new storylines to explore. The release date for the Lord of the Rings Gollum video game has been announced. The video game will release on May 25th. The game will be available for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 and Xbox One. Developer Daedalic Entertainment announced the launch date in a press release.